If you enjoy stories about survival, betrayal, and ultimate justice, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and comment your thoughts below. Your support means everything. I'm 58 years old, and I should have died 3 months ago. My brake lines were cut. Someone wanted me dead, and I know exactly who did it. My nephew Blake and my business partner Victor. Let me back up. My name is Arthur Pemberton. I built Pemberton Industries from nothing 40 years ago. Manufacturing company. Started with 10 employees in a rented warehouse. Now we have 3 facilities and 200 workers. The company's worth about $90 million. I never married. No children. My only living relatives are my sister's 2 kids, Blake, 34, and his sister Iris, 29. I've been planning to leave everything to them equally when I died. But 3 months ago, I overheard a conversation that changed everything. I was working late at the office. Most people had gone home. I heard voices in the conference room, Blake and Victor talking. The door was slightly open. I was about to announce myself when I heard Blake say something that froze me in place. Once Uncle Arthur's dead, we split the company. You get your 40%, I get mine. Iris gets her 20%. Victor replied, "And you're sure the brake line cut will look like an accident? No suspicion? The mechanic I paid will do it right. Arthur's old car, faulty maintenance, tragic accident. Police won't investigate." My heart stopped. They were planning to kill me. My own nephew and my business partner of 20 years were conspiring to murder me for my company. I backed away from the door silently, mind racing. Victor owned 20% of Pemberton Industries, shares I'd given him years ago as a loyalty bonus. But he wanted more, and Blake apparently wanted it all. I left the building without them seeing me, drove home in shock, sat in my living room all night, trying to process what I'd heard. By morning, I'd formed a plan. If they wanted me dead, fine. I'd disappear, let them think they'd succeeded. Then I'd watch from a distance and see what they'd do, document their crimes, build evidence, destroy them completely. But first, I needed to protect myself and my assets. I called my lawyer, Julian Blackwood, the next morning. "Julian, I need to see you immediately. Confidential matter." We met at his office within 2 hours. I explained everything. The conversation I'd overheard, the murder plot, my plan to disappear. Julian looked shocked. "Arthur, this is serious. You need to go to the police." "With what evidence?" "A conversation I overheard? They'll deny it." "No, I need to do this my way. But I need legal protections first." Julian leaned back, thinking, "What exactly do you want to do?" "I want to transfer controlling ownership of Pemberton Industries into a trust that Blake and Victor know nothing about. If I die, they won't actually inherit anything." Julian smiled slightly. "I can do that. Who do you want as trustee?" "You. And I want my will changed. If I die, Blake gets nothing. Victor gets nothing. Everything goes to Iris. She's never been greedy like her brother. And I want to establish conditions they can't contest." We spent the next week quietly restructuring everything. I transferred 60% of company shares into the Pemberton Trust, with Julian as trustee. On paper, I still own 40% personally, but the trust controlled the company. Blake and Victor would never see it coming. I also liquidated personal assets, sold my house, emptied bank accounts, converted everything to cash and offshore accounts only Julian knew about. I kept $2 million in accessible funds. The rest, about $15 million, went into secure accounts under different names. "Arthur, you're essentially erasing yourself," Julian observed. "That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to die, Julian, but I'll still be watching." The brake line incident happened 2 weeks later. I'd been expecting it. My mechanic, Tony, had warned me. "Mr. Pemberton, I found something disturbing during your oil change. Your brake lines are severely damaged. Looks like tampering. You need to file a police report." "No police," I said. "Just fix it. And Tony, I need you to do something unusual. I need you to make the repairs look like the damage is still there. Surface level fix only. Make it look dangerous, but actually be safe. Tony looked confused but agreed. You're the boss. That night, I drove my car to a remote cliff road outside the city. The kind of place where accidents happen. I'd scouted it earlier. I parked at the edge, set up my phone to record video, then sent the car over the cliff. Empty, of course. I'd rigged the accelerator to engage remotely. The car plunged 300 feet into a ravine, exploded on impact. Perfect. Arthur Pemberton was officially dead. The police would find the wreckage, assume I'd lost control due to brake failure, rule it accidental death. I'd arranged everything. Left my wallet in the car with identification. Left my phone. Left evidence that I'd been driving alone at night, lost control, died instantly. Then I disappeared. I'd rented a cabin under a fake name 2 hours outside the city. Small place, off the grid, paid in cash. I bought a prepaid laptop, established new email accounts, created fake identities. For the next 3 months, I watched from a distance as my death unfolded. The news covered it. Local businessman Arthur Pemberton dies in tragic car accident. Brake failure suspected. Blake played the grieving nephew perfectly. At my funeral, which I watched via a hidden camera Julian had placed, Blake cried, gave a touching eulogy, thanked everyone for coming. Victor looked appropriately sad too. They were both excellent actors. The reading of my will happen 2 weeks after the funeral. Julian called Blake, Iris, and Victor into his office. I'm sorry for your loss, Julian began. Arthur's was straightforward. His personal assets, house, car, personal accounts, are divided between Blake and Iris, 60% and 40% respectively. Blake smiled. And the company? The company is more complicated. Julian said carefully. Arthur restructured ownership before his death. 60% of Pemberton Industries is held in a trust. Victor's face went pale. What trust? The Pemberton Trust. I'm the trustee. The terms state that the trust controls a company for 10 years before ownership transfers to beneficiaries. Who are the beneficiaries? Blake demanded. That's confidential until the trust term expires. Blake exploded. That's insane. Arthur promised me that company. I'm his nephew. I deserve it. Arthur's will is legal and binding. Julian replied calmly. You'll receive income from company profits as a shareholder, but you don't control the company. Victor tried a different approach. Julian, surely we can contest this. Arthur wasn't in his right mind. This trust wasn't disclosed to partners. The trust is ironclad. Arthur was completely mentally competent when he created it. Any contest will fail and will cost you legal fees. I suggest you accept the arrangement. Blake and Victor left furious. I watched footage of them arguing in the parking lot. He screwed us, Blake hissed. That old fool put it all in a trust we can't touch. There has to be a way to break it, Victor replied. We killed him for nothing. Victor grabbed Blake's arm. Don't say that out loud, you idiot. We talk about this somewhere secure. I smiled watching that footage. They'd just confessed a murder on camera. Perfect. Over the next month, Blake and Victor tried everything to access the company. They demanded Julian reveal the trust terms. They hired lawyers to contest the will. They tried convincing the other shareholders to support a takeover. Nothing worked. Julian had drafted the trust brilliantly. It was unbreakable. Meanwhile, I was gathering evidence. Julian helped set up surveillance in Blake's home and office. Legal surveillance, done with proper warrants Julian obtained through his legal connections by presenting evidence of the murder plot. We recorded conversations between Blake and Victor planning new schemes, trying to discredit Julian, trying to forge documents showing Arthur had intended to give them the company, even discussing ways to eliminate Julian if necessary. They're digging themselves deeper every day, Julian observed during one of our secret meetings. He'd drive to my cabin every few weeks to update me and receive instructions. Let them dig, I replied. I want overwhelming evidence before we reveal I'm alive. I want them so buried in their own crimes that they'll never escape. But there was one complication I hadn't anticipated. Iris. My niece was genuinely devastated by my death. Unlike her brother, she'd actually loved me. She'd worked at the company, not because she wanted my money, but because she genuinely cared about the business and the employees. I watched her through surveillance Julian had installed at the company. She was running operations well, treating people fairly, making good decisions. Arthur, Iris doesn't know about the murder plot. Julian told me. She's innocent in all this. I know. That's why she's the only one who'll inherit anything real when this is over. Should we tell her you're alive? I considered that. Not yet. I need to see how she handles the pressure Blake's putting on her. Blake was indeed pressuring Iris. He wanted her to sign over her shares to him. He claimed he could run the company better, and that their uncle had made a mistake leaving things to a trust. Blake, I'm not signing anything. Iris said during one confrontation I watched via camera. Uncle Arthur knew what he was doing. If he wanted you to control the company, he would have arranged that. He would have, if that meddling lawyer hadn't influenced him. Julian didn't influence Uncle Arthur. Stop making excuses and accept that maybe Uncle Arthur didn't trust you with the company. Blake's face turned red. You think you're better than me? You think Uncle Arthur loved you more? I think Uncle Arthur saw who we really are, and he made decisions based on that. Good for Iris. She had integrity Blake completely lacked. But Blake wasn't giving up. He escalated, started spreading rumors that Iris was embezzling from the company, falsified documents to make it look like she was stealing funds. We need to intervene, Julian told me. Blake's setting Iris up to take the fall for crimes she didn't commit. Not yet. Let Blake commit more crimes. Every false document he creates, every lie he tells, it's more evidence against him. Arthur, Iris could be charged with fraud. She won't be, because we have proof of Blake's manipulation. We'll clear her name when the time is right. 2 months into my death, Blake made his biggest mistake. He tried to hire someone to kill Julian. We found out because the person he approached was an undercover police officer. Blake thought he was hiring a hitman. Actually, he was confessing conspiracy to commit murder on tape. I need this lawyer gone, Blake said on the recording. He's blocking everything. Without him, the trust falls apart and I get the company. How much are you paying? The undercover officer asked. $50,000. Half now, half when it's done. Blake handed over $25,000 in cash. The police arrested him immediately. When I heard the news, I knew it was time. Blake had committed enough crimes. His evidence folder was overflowing. Conspiracy to commit murder twice. Attempted murder, fraud, document forgery, embezzlement. Julian, set up a meeting with the district attorney. Tell them I'm alive. Tell them I have evidence of a murder plot. It's time to come back from the dead. The meeting happened 3 days later. I walked into the DA's office, very much alive. The DA, a woman named Rebecca Sandoval, nearly fell out her chair. Mr. Pemberton? But you died 3 months ago. I faked my death after discovering my nephew and business partner were planning to kill me. I've spent 3 months gathering evidence against them. I'm ready to press charges. Rebecca listened as I explained everything. Showed her the recordings of Blake and Victor discussing the break line cut. Showed her evidence of their subsequent crimes. Showed her Blake's attempt to hire a hitman. This is extraordinary, Rebecca said. You deliberately fake your death to catch them? I did, and it worked. They not only revealed their original plot, but committed multiple additional crimes thinking they'd gotten away with murder. Mr. Pemberton, what you did is legally complicated. Faking your death isn't illegal, but it creates chain reactions. Insurance fraud accusations will complications, potential obstruction of justice issues. I'm aware, but I was the victim of an attempted murder. I had every right to protect myself, and I made sure no insurance claims were filed. My death was never officially confirmed, just assumed. The car crash was investigated as an accident, but no body was found because I wasn't in the car. Julian added, Arthur's actions, while unusual, were all legal. He didn't defraud anyone. He simply withdrew from society while gathering evidence of crimes against him. Rebecca thought carefully. All right, I'll authorize charges against Blake Pemberton and Victor Moreland. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, document forgery, and in Blake's case, conspiracy to commit murder against Julian Blackwood. But Mr. Pemberton, you're going to have to testify to all of this. I'm ready. The arrests happened that afternoon. Police showed up at Blake's house and Victor's office simultaneously. The looks on their faces when they were handcuffed must have been priceless. I wasn't there to see it personally, but Julian described it in detail. Blake actually said, "This is impossible. Arthur's dead." Julian laughed. The officer replied, "Apparently not. He's pressing charges against you for trying to kill him." Victor tried to run, got as far as the parking lot before police tackled him. They found $60,000 cash in his car trunk and a plane ticket to a non-extradition country. He'd been planning to flee. The news exploded. Local businessman Arthur Pemberton alive after presumed death. Nephew and business partner arrested for murder plot. I gave an exclusive interview to the largest local news station, sat down with their investigative reporter, and explained everything. "Mr. Pemberton, why fake your death? Why not go to the police immediately?" "Because I had no proof. Just an overheard conversation. They would have denied it, and I'd still be in danger. By faking my death, I was able to gather concrete evidence and stay safe while doing it." "What was it like watching your own funeral?" "Surreal. Heartbreaking. Watching Blake cry over my casket when I knew he'd try to kill me. That was hard, but confirmed I had made the right choice. He's a sociopath who feels nothing. What happens now? Now justice happens. Blake and Victor will face trial for multiple crimes. They'll go to prison, and I get my life back." The interview went viral. Media from across the country picked it up. The man who came back from the dead to catch his killers. It became a sensation. Blake and Victor were both denied bail, flight risk, and danger to witnesses. They sat in jail awaiting trial, while lawyers scrambled to build defenses. Blake's lawyer tried arguing entrapment. Arthur Pemberton deliberately created a situation designed to trap my client into committing crimes. "Your client tried to kill Arthur Pemberton before Arthur did anything," Rebecca Sandoval countered. "Arthur simply protected himself and documented crimes that were already in progress." Victor's lawyer tried a different angle. Victor Moreland was coerced by Blake Pemberton. Blake manipulated him into participating. Victor participated in planning a murder. He discussed hiring a mechanic to cut brake lines. He's equally culpable. The trial began 4 months after my resurrection. Media packed the courtroom. I was the star witness. "Mr. Pemberton, please tell the court what you heard on the evening of October 14th. Rebecca began. I recounted the conversation, described Blake and Victor discussing my murder as casually as planning a business meeting, played the audio recordings we'd made. The jury looked horrified. Blake's lawyer cross-examined me. "Mr. Pemberton, isn't it true you were angry that Blake expected to inherit your company?" "No. I was planning to leave Blake half the company before I discovered he wanted to kill me." "So you admit you changed you out of spite?" "I changed my will to protect my assets from murderers." "That's not spite. That's common sense." "You had your nephew arrested based on a conversation you claim to have overheard. Isn't it possible you misunderstood?" "I recorded that conversation. The jury just heard it. Blake and Victor clearly discussed cutting my brake lines. There's no misunderstanding." Blake's lawyer had no response to that. Victor's lawyer tried discrediting the recordings. "These were made without my client's knowledge or consent. They should be inadmissible." The judge disagreed. Mr. Moreland was discussing committing murder. He had no expectation of privacy for criminal conspiracy. "The recordings are admissible." We presented the mechanic's testimony. Blake had indeed approached him about cutting brake lines. The mechanic had refused and reported it to Tony, my regular mechanic. Tony had warned me. We presented the undercover officer's testimony about Blake trying to hire a hitman to kill Julian. We presented Blake's forged documents attempting to frame Iris for embezzlement. The evidence was overwhelming. Blake took the stand in his own defense. "Big mistake. Mr. Pemberton, why did you want your uncle dead?" Rebecca asked. "I didn't. This is all a misunderstanding. I never tried to kill anyone." "Then how do you explain the recorded conversation discussing brake line cutting?" We were joking. Dark humor. We didn't mean it." You joked about murdering your uncle? It wasn't serious. So when you handed $25,000 to someone you believe was a hitman, was that a joke too? Blake stammered. I was entrapped. That wasn't real. You gave $25,000 in cash to kill Julian Blackwood. That's very real. Blake crumbled on the stand, started crying, claiming he'd been under stress, that he'd made mistakes, that he deserved a second chance. The jury wasn't buying it. Victor didn't testify. His lawyer advised against it, but that made him look guilty by silence. Closing arguments were straightforward. Rebecca laid out the timeline. Blake and Victor planning my murder, executing the break line cut, my stage death, their attempt to steal my company, Blake's escalation to trying to kill Julian. These men are not victims, Rebecca told the jury. They're predators who tried to kill Arthur Pemberton for money. They failed. Not through any mercy of their own, but because Arthur was smart enough to protect himself. They deserve the maximum penalty. Blake's lawyer tried painting Blake as a troubled young man who'd made mistakes. Blake Pemberton is not a murderer. He's a nephew who felt entitled to his uncle's company and made poor choices out of desperation. That doesn't make him a killer. He tried to hire a hitman, Rebecca pointed out. Twice he attempted murder, once against Arthur, once against Julian. That's exactly what a killer does. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, came back with guilty verdicts on all counts for both Blake and Victor. Sentencing happened 2 weeks later. Blake received 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy to murder Julian. Victor received 20 years for the same crimes minus the Julian murder attempt. You will serve at least 15 years before parole eligibility, the judge told Blake. You attempted to kill your uncle, the man who raised you, supported you, planned to leave you a fortune. That level of betrayal deserves significant punishment. Blake cried, begged for leniency, apologized to me directly. I felt nothing. No pity, no satisfaction. Just relief that he'd face consequences. Victor remained silent, staring at the floor. He'd lost everything, his freedom, his career, his reputation. His wife had filed for divorce the day after his arrest. After sentencing, Iris approached me in the courthouse hallway. We hadn't spoken since I'd revealed I was alive. She'd been shocked, confused, hurt that I hadn't told her I was okay. Uncle Arthur, she said quietly, I'm glad you're alive, but I'm angry you let me grieve when you weren't actually dead. I'm sorry, Iris. I couldn't risk telling anyone. If Blake suspected I was alive, he might have succeeded in killing me for real. I understand, but it hurt. I know, and I'll spend time making it up to you. But Iris, you need to know, you were always the one I trusted. The trust was created to protect the company from Blake and Victor. When the trust term ends, everything goes to you. The company, my personal assets, everything. Iris's eyes widened. Everything. You're the only one who ever cared about the business for the right reasons. You care about the employees, about quality, about integrity. Blake only cared about money. You deserve the company. Iris hugged me, crying, thank you for trusting me. With Blake and Victor in prison, I had to decide what to do with the company. The trust gave Julian control for 10 years, but I could amend those terms now that the threat was eliminated. Julian, I want to transfer immediate control to Iris. Can we restructure the trust? We can. You're alive, so the trust terms can be modified with your consent. We'll transfer management authority to Iris while maintaining the trust structure for legal protection. Within a month, Iris became CEO of Pemberton Industries. She was nervous but capable. I mentored her, taught her everything I knew about running the business. Uncle Arthur, I want to expand our operations. Iris said one day, we've been stagnant for years. I have ideas for new product lines, new markets. Show me your plans. Iris presented comprehensive business strategies, new products that address market needs, expansion into international markets, sustainability initiatives that would reduce costs and attract environmentally conscious customers. These are excellent. I told her, implement them. You have full authority. Under Iris's leadership, Pemberton Industries thrived. Revenue increased 30% in the first year. We hired 50 new employees, expanded into 2 new states. The company that Blake had tried to steal became more valuable than ever under management he'd never have provided. I semi-retired, kept an advisory role, but let Iris run operations. I'd spent months hiding, months stressed about trials and evidence. Now I wanted peace. I bought a small house in the mountains. Nothing extravagant, just comfortable. Spent my days reading, hiking, enjoying life I'd almost lost. Blake wrote me letters from prison. At first they were angry, blaming me for his incarceration, claiming I'd ruined his life. I didn't respond. Then the letters changed, became apologetic. Blake claiming he'd found religion, that he was sorry, that he wanted forgiveness. I still didn't respond. Some things can't be forgiven. Trying to kill me wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Blake had chosen greed over family. He could live with that choice in prison. Victor never wrote. I heard through Julian that Victor had accepted full responsibility, was serving his time quietly, planned to leave the state when released. A year after the trial, I gave another interview, this time for a national news magazine. Mr. Pemberton, do you have regrets about how you handled this? I regret that Blake forced me into the situation. But no, I don't regret faking my death. It saved my life and brought criminals to justice. Some people say you were excessive, that you could have simply gone to police with what you overheard, and Blake would have denied it. I'd be dead within weeks. My way ensured I survived and they faced consequences. What would you tell other people in similar situations? Protect yourself first. Trust your instincts. Document everything. And don't underestimate what people will do for money. The interview resonated. I received letters from people who'd faced similar betrayals. Family members stealing inheritances, business partners committing fraud, loved ones attempting harm for financial gain. Your story gave me courage to expose my brother's theft, one woman wrote. I thought I was alone. Seeing you fight back inspired me. That made the whole ordeal worthwhile. Not just justice for me, but encouragement for others facing similar situations. 2 years after my death, Pemberton Industries was thriving. Iris had double company value. We'd acquired a competitor, expanded into 3 more states, developed 2 revolutionary products that were industry game changers. Uncle Arthur, we just hit $100 million in annual revenue. Iris told me excitedly. We've never been this successful. You did that. I replied proudly. Not me. You took my foundation and built something better. Iris had also married a good man named James who worked as an architect. They had a daughter, my great-niece Sophia. Watching that little girl play, I realized how close I'd come to missing this. Missing her existence because Blake had wanted money more than family. I thought about Blake sometimes. Sitting in prison, watching his sister succeed where he'd failed. The company he'd tried to steal was now worth more than ever, and he'd never touch it. Do you think Blake has really changed? Iris asked me once. His letters to me say he's sorry. Maybe he is sorry. Sorry he got caught. But Iris, remember, Blake tried to kill me. Not in a moment of passion, but through careful planning. That's not something you do and then genuinely reform. You're right. He's still my brother. I understand. But being related doesn't obligate you to forgive attempted murder. Iris accepted that. She never visited Blake in prison, never responded to his letters. She'd chosen to protect her peace rather than maintain toxic family connections. I respected that. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up, who cares, who can be trusted. Blake had failed all those tests. 3 years after my resurrection, I was contacted by a true crime author wanting to write a book about my case. The Man Who Died to Live, how Arthur Pemberton faked his death to catch his killers. I'll cooperate, I told her, but only if you tell the complete story, not just the dramatic parts. I want people to understand the planning, the fear, the legal complexities. The book came out a year later, became a bestseller, spent 12 weeks on major bestseller lists, sold film rights to a streaming service. You're famous, Julian joked. I'm notorious. I corrected. There's a difference. The attention was uncomfortable. Strangers recognized me, asked for autographs, wanted to hear the story firsthand. I mostly declined. I'd told my story enough. Blake's parole hearing was scheduled for year 15 of his sentence. I planned to attend, to testify against parole, to ensure he served his full sentence. Uncle Arthur, do you really need to go? Iris asked. Blake's been in prison for years. Let him serve his time in peace. He tried to kill me, Iris. I'm going to make sure he serves every year he deserves. The hearing was surreal. Blake, now 49, looked older and harder. Prison had aged him. He gave a statement about rehabilitation, about finding purpose, about being sorry. Then I spoke. Blake, Pemberton planned my murder with cold calculation. He felt no remorse until he was caught. His apologies are self-serving attempts to secure early release. He should serve his full sentence. The parole board agreed. Blake's parole was denied. He'd serve at least 5 more years before the next hearing. Blake looked at me with hatred as he was led away. Good. Let him hate me. Hate didn't change facts. Victor's hearing went differently. He'd been a model prisoner, completed education programs, showed genuine remorse. After 15 years, he was granted parole. I didn't oppose Victor's release. He'd been Blake's follower more than an equal conspirator. He deserved a second chance. Victor was released 6 months later, moved to another state, got a job in construction, lived quietly. We never contacted each other. By year 5 of my second life, I was 63. Iris had made Pemberton Industries worth $150 million. She'd transformed a solid manufacturing company into an industry leader. I'm officially retiring. I told Iris, the company's yours completely. I'm transferring my remaining shares to you. Are you sure? Absolutely. You've earned it. You've proven you're a better CEO than I ever was. We held a retirement party. Small gathering, just close friends and key employees. People gave speeches about my years building the company. It was touching, but also strange. I'd already had a funeral where people said nice things about me. This felt like a do-over. Arthur, what will you do with all your free time? One old friend asked. Travel, read, enjoy life. I've already died once. I'm not wasting my second chance. I bought an RV, spent the next year traveling across America, visited national parks, small towns, places I'd always wanted to see, but never had time for. I sent Iris postcards from each stop, having the time of my life. Thanks for making it possible by running the company so well. Somewhere in Montana, I met a woman named Caroline. Widow, 60 years old, sharp and funny. We started talking at a campground and didn't stop for 3 hours. So, you're the famous Arthur Pemberton, she said when I finally introduced myself. The man who came back from the dead. That's me, though I prefer to think of it as the man who never really died in the first place. Same thing. You faked your death to catch killers. That's pretty dramatic. It was necessary. Caroline and I traveled together for several months, became close, eventually moved in together, into a small house in Colorado, near the mountains. I never thought I'd find someone at this age. I told her one evening. Life surprises you, Caroline replied. You almost died, but didn't. I almost gave up on love, but didn't. Here we are. Indeed, here we were. Blake wrote me one final letter 7 years into his sentence. This one different from the others. Uncle Arthur, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this. But I need to say something. You were right about me. I was greedy, entitled, willing to do terrible things for money. Prison has given me time to face who I really was. I destroyed my own life. You didn't do that. I did. I'm sorry. Not because I want anything from you, but because you deserve better from me. Blake. I read that letter several times. Showed it to Caroline. Do you think he means it? Maybe, she said. Does it matter? I'm not sure. I never responded to that letter either, but I filed it away. Maybe one day I'd feel ready to engage with Blake. Maybe not. Either way, I'd moved on. Iris had a second child, a son named Arthur. After you, she told me at the hospital. The man who saved our family by refusing to die. I think you saved the family by being the only one worth saving, I replied, holding my great-nephew. Pemberton Industries continued thriving. Iris brought in new leadership. Diversified products expanded internationally. By the time I was 65, the company was worth $200 million. We're considering going public, Iris told me. Taking the company public would give us capital for major expansion. What do you think? It's your company, Iris. Whatever you think is best. I want your blessing. You have it. You've proven you know what you're doing. I trust your judgment completely. Pemberton Industries went public 2 years later. IPO was massively successful. Company valuation hit $300 million overnight. Iris, as majority shareholder, became a very wealthy woman. Uncle Arthur, this is because of you, she said after the IPO. You built the foundation. You protected it from Blake. You gave me the chance to grow it. I owe you everything. You owe me nothing. You earned this. Blake heard about the IPO from prison. Wrote another letter, this one bitter. I could have had that. That company should have been mine. You and Iris stole my inheritance. I didn't respond. Blake still didn't understand. You can't steal what someone chose not to give you. Victor, now released and living quietly, sent me a letter. Brief, direct. Arthur, I heard about the IPO. Congratulations to Iris. She deserves it. I wanted you to know I've rebuilt my life. I'm not looking for forgiveness, just closure. I'm sorry for what I did. I've spent years paying for it. I hope you're well. Victor, that letter I did respond to. Victor, I'm glad you moved forward. Your actions 15 years ago were wrong, but you served your time. I wish you success in your new life. Arthur, it wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement that people can change, can pay debts, can deserve second chances. Blake had squandered his chances. Victor had earned one. I turned 68 3 months ago. Caroline and I are still together. Iris's children are growing up healthy and happy. Pemberton Industries continues to thrive under Iris's leadership. Sometimes I think about that night I overheard Blake and Victor planning my murder. How my entire life changed in that moment. How close I came to dying before ever knowing they wanted me dead. But I survived. Not just survived, thrived. Built a new life better than the old one. Saw justice served. Protected my legacy. Found love. Watched family grow. Blake is still in prison. Will be for years more. His parole keeps getting denied. He'll be nearly 60 when he's finally released. By then, Pemberton Industries will probably be worth $500 million. Iris will have built an empire. And Blake will leave prison with nothing. No family, no fortune, no future except whatever he can scrape together. That's the cost of greed. Blake traded everything. Family, freedom, future, for money he never got. Meanwhile, I traded nothing and gained everything. People ask me if I'm glad I faked my death. The answer is complicated. I'm glad I survived. I'm glad Blake and Victor faced justice. But the experience changed me fundamentally. Made me suspicious of people, protective of assets, careful about trust. You're less open than you used to be, Caroline observed one evening. When your nephew tries to kill you, it makes you wary. I admitted, that's understandable. But don't let Blake's betrayal close you off to everyone. Most people aren't like him. She was right. Most people are decent. Blake and Victor were exceptions, not the rule. I started working with a therapist, dealing with the trauma of being targeted for murder, of faking my death, of watching your own funeral. Those experiences leave scars. You survive an extraordinary situation, Dr. Morrison told me during sessions. Give yourself credit for that. You didn't just react. You planned, executed, succeeded. That takes remarkable strength. Sometimes I feel guilty. I admitted, like I should have handled it differently. How else could you have handled it? Go to police with no proof? They have denied everything and tried again. You chose the option that guaranteed your survival and their exposure. That wasn't wrong. That was smart. The therapy helped. I started sleeping better. Stopped having nightmares about brake lines failing and cars plunging off cliffs. Iris threw me a 70th birthday party last year. Huge celebration. Friends, family, business associates. Over 200 people. They gave speeches about my life, my company, my survival. Arthur Pemberton died 10 years ago. One friend joked, but he refused to stay dead. That's the most Arthur thing possible. Everyone laughed, including me. Blake sent a birthday card from prison. Simple message. Happy birthday, Uncle Arthur. I'm glad you're alive to see it. Blake. I showed it to Iris. Do you think he means it? I think Blake has finally accepted he lost, Iris said. Whether that makes him genuinely sorry or just resigned, I don't know. Do you ever think about visiting him? No. Blake made his choices. He has to live with them. I've built a good life. I won't let his guilt or regret disrupt that. Smart woman, my niece. Caroline and I got married on my 70th birthday. Small ceremony, just close friends. Neither of us needed a big wedding. We'd both been alone for years. Finding each other felt like enough celebration. I never thought I'd marry the man who came back from the dead. Caroline joked during her vows. I never thought I'd find someone who didn't care about my money. I replied. That was true. Caroline had her own retirement savings, her own house before we met. She wasn't with me for Pemberton Industries or my wealth. She was with me because she enjoyed my company. After Blake and Victor, that meant everything. Pemberton Industries hit $500 million in valuation this year. Iris accomplished what I never could. Turned a solid regional manufacturer into a national powerhouse. She'd acquired 3 competitors, developed patents on innovative products, expanded into 12 states. We're looking at international expansion next year. Iris told me during a quarterly update. Manufacturing facilities in Mexico and Canada. Distribution deals in Europe. You surpassed every dream I had for this company, I said proudly. Because you gave me the foundation and the freedom, Iris replied. You protected the company from Blake. You trusted me to run it. That made everything possible. Blake was denied parole again at year 20. He'd serve his full 25-year sentence now. No more hearings. He'd be 59 when released. I attended that final hearing. Blake looked broken. 20 years in prison had destroyed whatever spirit he once had. He gave his statement mechanically, no longer believing it would matter. I take full responsibility for my actions. I understand the harm I caused. I've spent 2 decades reflecting on my choices. I'm not asking for freedom. I'm just asking for a chance to prove I've changed. The parole board denied him again. Mr. Pemberton, you attempted murder twice. Your actions endangered multiple people. While we acknowledge your prison behavior has improved, the severity of your crimes warrants full sentence completion. Blake nodded, unsurprised. As they led him away, he looked at me one final time. No hatred now, just exhaustion and resignation. I felt nothing. No triumph, no pity. Just relief that this chapter was finally completely closed. Victor had rebuilt his life modestly. He worked construction in Arizona, lived in a small apartment, dated occasionally but never remarried. He'd send me updates every few years, not asking for anything, just keeping me informed. I know you don't owe me acknowledgement, his last letter read, but I wanted you to know I've been clean for 10 years. No crime, no schemes, just honest work. I'm not the man I was. Thank you for not destroying me completely when you had the chance. Victor, I wrote back. Victor, I'm glad you found redemption. You made terrible choices, but you've paid for them and moved forward. That's all anyone can do. I wish you continued success. Arthur, that felt like closure. Victor had been a follower, influenced by Blake's greed. But he'd taken responsibility, served his time, and rebuilt ethically. He deserved acknowledgement of that growth. Blake never would. Even after 25 years, I suspected Blake would leave prison bitter and resentful rather than reformed and humble. Today, I'm 72 years old. 14 years have passed since the night I overheard Blake planning my murder. 14 years since I faked my death and disappeared. Those years have been the best of my life. I found love with Caroline. I watched Iris build an empire. I helped hundreds of people through a charitable foundation I established with part of my wealth. I traveled, learned, grew. Blake will be released in 3 more years. He'll leave prison at 59 with nothing. No family who wants him. Iris has made clear he's not welcome in her life. No career prospects with felony record. No money since he spent everything on lawyers and had no income for 25 years. I considered reaching out, offering minimal support, a small amount of money to help him restart. But every time I consider it, I remember his voice that night. Once Uncle Arthur's dead, we split the company. Cold, calculated, willing to murder family for money. Some people don't deserve second chances. Blake is one of them. Instead, I put money in a trust for Blake's release. Enough for 6 months of basic living expenses. He'll get it through Julian, anonymously. Enough to survive while he figures out his life, but not enough to live comfortably without working. That's more generous than Blake deserves, Caroline said when I told her about the trust. It's not generosity. It's closure. I want to know I did the right thing, even if Blake never did. Iris had another child last year. A daughter named Caroline, after my wife. Watching that little girl play with her siblings, I'm struck by what Blake lost. Not the money, the family. The children who'll never know their uncle. The nieces and nephews Blake will never meet because he chose greed over love. That's the real tragedy of his story. Not that he went to prison. Not that he lost Pemberton Industries. But that he destroyed his own family connections for something as temporary as money. I found out they tried to kill me for my inheritance. So I disappeared and this happened. I built a better life than I had before. I found love. I watched my niece succeed beyond imagination. I helped others through charity. I wrote a book that inspired people facing similar betrayals. Blake tried to take my life and ended up giving me a better one. The ultimate irony. Next month, Pemberton Industries will announce another acquisition, a major competitor worth $200 million. Iris negotiated the deal brilliantly. When it closes, Pemberton Industries will be worth nearly $1 billion. Blake could have been part of that. If he'd been patient, if he'd worked honestly, if he'd valued family over greed, he would have inherited hundreds of millions eventually. I was planning to leave him half of everything. Instead, he got 25 years in prison and will leave with nothing. Do you ever regret how things turned out with Blake? Caroline asked last week. I regret that Blake made the choices he made. I replied, but I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret ensuring justice. And I definitely don't regret giving everything to Iris instead. She's proven she deserved it. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a screenwriter. The streaming service that bought rights to my story wants to start production. They want my input on the script, my approval of how the story's told. Make sure you show the fear, I told the writer. Everyone focuses on the dramatic parts. Faking death, recording confessions, the trial. But the real story is the fear of knowing someone wants you dead and the courage it takes to fight back. The writer understood. This isn't just a crime story. It's a survival story. And a family story about betrayal and redemption. Exactly. Blake and Victor are the villains. But Iris is a hero. She's the one who took a broken situation and built something beautiful. Looking back on 14 years, I'm grateful. Grateful I overheard that conversation and had warning. Grateful I had resources to protect myself. Grateful for Julian's help. For Iris's integrity. For Caroline's love. I'm grateful I didn't actually die that night on the cliff road. That I'm here to watch my great nieces and great nephews grow up. That I'm here to see Pemberton Industries thrive under leadership that values people over profits. Most of all, I'm grateful that Blake's greed didn't win. That good triumphed over evil. That justice prevailed. That family survived. They tried to kill me for my inheritance. Instead, they lost everything while I gained more than I'd ever had. That's not revenge. That's not even justice, really. That's just life teaching the ultimate lesson. Greed destroys the greedy while integrity builds lasting success. Blake will learn that lesson in 3 years when he leaves prison and discovers he has nothing while the company he tried to steal is worth $1 billion. I almost wish I could see his face when he realizes that. Almost. But I'll be too busy living my life, the life he tried to take but couldn't, to pay attention to his bitter regrets. I found out they tried to kill me for my inheritance, so I disappeared. And what happened was better than anything I could have planned. I didn't just survive, I thrived. And the people who tried to destroy me destroyed only themselves. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and watching your enemies face the consequences of their own choices. Blake tried to kill me 14 years ago. Today, I'm happily married, surrounded by family I love, watching a company I built reach heights I never imagined. Blake is in prison with 3 years left, anticipating freedom that will bring nothing but the reality of how completely he destroyed his own life. I win, not because I'm better than Blake, but because I chose integrity over greed, family over money, and survival over surrender. That's the real story. Not that I faked my death, but that I refuse to let death, real or metaphorical, define my life. They tried to kill me. I disappeared. And I came back stronger than ever. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? How did you handle it? What would you do if you discovered someone plotting against you? I'd love to hear your perspectives and experiences. Remember, trust your instincts. Document everything and never underestimate what people will do for money, but also never underestimate your own power to survive and thrive despite their worst intentions. Thanks for reading, and know that the best response to those who try to destroy you is building a life so successful they can only watch on the outside with regret.